Number 10. Theory of relativity. In our everyday lives, we experience 3 spatial dimensions and a 4th dimension of time. How could there be more? Einstein's general theory of relativity tells us that space can expand, contract, and bend. Now, if one dimension were to contract to a size smaller than an atom, it would be hidden from our view. But if we could look on a small enough scale, that hidden dimension might become visible again. Now, imagine a person walking on a tightrope. She can only move forwards and backwards, but not left or right nor up or down. She only sees one dimension. Ants living on a much smaller scale could move around the cable in what would appear like an extra dimension to the tightrope walker. You know how they explain the upside down in Stranger Things? Yeah, well, it'd be the same thing. So does that mean that the upside down really exists? Because I do not want to come face to face with a Demogorgon or Vecna. Number 9. Dan Cooper. One of the most famous heists in history occurred on November 24, 1971, when a man who identified himself as Dan Cooper bought a one-way ticket to Seattle on Northwest Orient Airlines from Portland, Oregon. After the plane was airborne, Dan handed the flight attendant a note. At first, she just put it in her pocket without looking, but then Cooper told her, "Miss, you better look at that note. I have a bomb." He opened a briefcase and revealed red-colored sticks surrounded by an array of wires. He told the flight attendant to write down everything he was saying, and then take it to the captain. The note said, "I want $200,000 by 5 p.m. in cash exclusively in $20 bills put in a knapsack. I want 2 back parachutes and 2 front parachutes. When we land, I want a fuel truck ready to refuel. No funny stuff or I'll do the job." FBI agents assembled the ransom money and Seattle police obtained the parachutes from a local skydiving school. When Dan claimed his demands were met, he allowed all passengers and some of the crew to exit the airplane. He told the remaining crew to refuel the plane and chart a course for Mexico City while staying below 10,000 feet. Then, somewhere between Seattle and Reno, he jumped from the plane with the money, and he was never seen again. Despite an expansive manhunt for over 45 years of searching, no conclusions have been made as to the man's identity or his fate after he jumped. It's called one of the greatest cold cases in FBI and US history, but many think he was from a parallel universe and just wanted some money. I don't know, but it makes you think. Number 8. Backwards parallel universe. A group of NASA scientists working on an experiment in Antarctica have detected evidence of a parallel universe where the rules of physics are the opposite of our own, according to a report. A cosmic ray detection experiment has found particles that could be from a parallel realm that were also born in the Big Bang. The experts used the giant balloon to carry NASA's Antarctic Impulsive Transit Antenna, or ANITA, high above Antarctica, where the frigid dry air provided the perfect environment with little to no radio noise to distort its findings. A constant wind of high-energy particles constantly arrives on Earth from outer space. Low-energy subatomic neutrinos with a mass close to 0 can pass completely through Earth, but higher-energy objects are stopped by the solid matter of our planet. That means high-energy particles can only be detected coming down from space, but the team's ANITA detected heavier particles, so-called tau neutrinos, which come up out of Earth. The finding implies that these particles are actually traveling backwards in time, suggesting evidence of a parallel universe, so there you go. Number 7. Mirrors. Mirrors are thought to be portals to another world, and some believe this is another dimension, but those who believe in ghosts believe it's a portal to the other side. Now, many cultures still hold on to their superstitions that exist concerning mirrors, ghosts, souls, and death. The act of covering your mirror overnight is something that is done in multiple cultures and across many beliefs worldwide. As Anthony Perrotta from AP Astrology explains, mirrors are often seen as a portal into the liminal space and the other world, and have the power to reflect what is happening deep in our subconscious. However, while bedroom mirror ideas are fabulous for reflecting light in the daytime, they are at their most powerful when paired with sleep, say experts. There's also a notion that if you look into a mirror too long, you can see your face distort, and there's always that thing where people are scared their reflection is gonna move when they are not. And why would the reflection move? Because it's someone from another dimension trying to copy us. Number 6. Doppelgangers. A doppelganger is a biologically unrelated look-alike or double of a living person. You might have heard the phrase, "there are 7 other versions of you in the world." Now, a study of look-alikes, unrelated people with faces so similar they could pass for identical twins, has found that such pairs share genetic traits. Scientists studied 32 pairs of individuals with uncannily similar headshots who were part of a long-running project by a Canadian photographer to document these faux twins. The 16 pairs found by computer analysis to have the most similar features also shared more genetic variants than the less similar pairs, the research researchers concluded. Now, that's not a huge surprise because researchers are already using genetics to predict face shape. The fake twins did not share DNA methylation patterns, chemical marks controlling gene expressions that are shaped by our environment, reinforcing the dominant role of DNA alone plays in determining our appearance. Now, could this be an appearance of you who's accidentally in the wrong universe? Maybe. Maybe. Number 5. Third man syndrome. Sometimes when people get into really bad car accidents, there's some sort of supernatural phenomenon that happens to you. You may have heard of this as a video is now going viral on TikTok, and it's called third man syndrome, and it's an unseen presence that appears during traumatic survival situations that talks to the victim, gives them practical advice, and encourages them. Now, this has happened to many people, and we don't know if it's some sort of angel speaking to them or if it's another version of themselves from a different dimension telling them not to give up. Regardless, it is creepy. Now, under one of these posts, someone said, "As a paramedic, I can concur. Many patients swear people were there and no one's around." So, what can explain this? I'm not too sure, but it's comforting that someone is there with people experiencing such tragedies. Number 4. Shifting realities. So in 2020, there was a lot of talk on TikTok about people shifting realities as we were in lockdown. People were in realities where they were famous, were a part of Hogwarts, and so much more. But is there any truth to it? Reality shifting is a term that refers to the spiritual practice of transferring or shifting one's consciousness to an alternate reality and or the attempt to alter the reality one is experiencing and transcending one's physical confines to visit alternate universes. Now, reality shifting, also known as shifting, is a form of manifestation rooted in Buddhism and Hinduism. So it's not just something made up by teenage girls. The techniques include hypnosis, transcendental meditation, biofeedback, binaural sounds, affirmations, and subliminal stimuli. So if you can shift to another universe, then that means there are parallel universes, right? Number 3. Hadron Collider. The world's largest particle accelerator was turned on once again in the year of 2022. After 3 years of upgrades and maintenance, it immediately observed 3 exotic particles for the first time. The Large Hadron Collider, LHC, is now up and running and breaking records for the highest energy particle collisions ever performed. It's pretty exciting, with the teams involved searching for more information on the so-called God particle, the Higgs boson, and signs of dark matter. And this machine could test for other dimensions. Now, how would they test for extra dimensions? One option would be to find evidence of particles that can exist if only dimensions are real. Theories that suggest extra dimensions predict that in the same way as atoms have low energy ground state and excited high energy states, there would be heavier versions of standard particles in other dimensions. These heavier versions of particles, called quasi-clean states, would have exactly the same properties as standard particles and so be visible to our detectors, but with a greater mass. If CMS or ATLAS were to find Z or W-like particle, the Z and W bosons being carriers of the electroweak force, with a mass 100 times larger for instance, this might suggest the presence of extra dimensions. Such heavy particles can only be revealed at high energies reached by the LHC, so we could potentially find out if there are indeed other dimensions. Number 2. Quantum immortality. Quantum immortality started as a thought experiment in the late 1980s and later was more fully developed by physicist and cosmologist Max Tegmark. It suggests that we can die many times throughout our lives. With each passing, our consciousness moves, slides, jumps, or shifts to the closest timeline, very similar to the one where we died. These ideas and application of the concept lie outside of the realm of science, but have been embraced by many of those who believe they have experienced such a shift. While science and skeptics may not agree, others are not so quick to dismiss the idea. There are reports of near-death experiences which validate these beliefs. Now, most people do not realize that they have jumped until later unless the event is particularly traumatic. Sometimes they can trace the shift back to a specific global tragedy or experience. Small differences are sometimes noted, and the result of earlier choices or decisions in which manifest in the new reality. And coming in at number 1 are psychics. Whenever psychics tap into the spirit world, you're tapping into a different timeline, as their time is completely different than it is here, so that's why sometimes predictions don't come true. This is like when the 2016 presidential election happened. They were sure that Hillary was going to win, but then she didn't. Due to this, people think we shifted timelines in 2016. Now, one reason for the sudden shift? Well, back in April 2016, CERN Weasel made it into the super collider I was talking about before and chewed its way through a 66,000 volt transformer. Workers found the charred remains later. Now, that definitely could have have messed a lot of things up. All I gotta say is, stupid weasel. Number 10. Dreams. One theory with dreams is that we are visiting other realities while we sleep. Dreaming has always been a confusing topic for scientists and theorists because we have never gotten a guaranteed correct answer as to what exactly dreams are or why we even get them. One of the bigger theories surrounding dreams is that when we are dreaming, we are actually getting a glimpse into multiple parallel universes and what's happening there. By dreaming, we get to know what other versions of ourselves are doing in their respective universes. So yes, unfortunately, one time you did go to school naked. Sorry. Psychologists think that during dreams we turn information into multidimensional design based on our consciousness. Some believe that dreams are a way of our other selves reaching out to us and communicating with us, and it's an interesting theory because you have to take into consideration lucid dreaming and how some people have claimed to go to different realms while dreaming. Now perhaps there exists advanced technology in other universes that allow people to reach out to their other selves. Now I don't know about you guys, but I kinda believe this. I've had dreams where I go through my day as normal, and then the next day when I wake up, everything that happened in my dream happens in real life. Is that another version of me trying to warn myself of future events? Who knows, but it is trippy. Number 9. Black holes. Now some people think black holes are actually portals to other dimensions. This theory was originally put forward by Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking believed that black holes are actually portals to another dimension or parallel universe, and that anything that gets sucked into a black hole is actually transported to the other dimension. It has already been scientifically proven that black holes have 2 openings, so it is pretty plausible to assume that whatever's at the other end might just be a separate reality. Either way, I think we should test it out and see if it really is. And guess what? I volunteer as tribute. Number 8. The Cosmic Bruise. In 2017, scientists at Durham University discovered a weird cold spot in our universe. This cold spot is sometimes referred to as a bruise, and the scientists who discovered it believe that it might have come into existence after our universe collided with another and created an astronomical catastrophe. A controversial claim by Laura Mershini-Houghton is that it could be an imprint of another universe beyond our own, caused by quantum entanglement between universes before they were separated by cosmetic inflation. Laura said standard cosmology cannot explain such a giant cosmic hole and made the hypothesis that the cold spot is the unmistakable imprint of another universe beyond the edge of our own. If true, this provides the first empirical evidence for a parallel universe, though theoretical models of parallel universes existed previously. It would also support string theory. The team claims that there are testable consequences for its theory. If the parallel universe theory is true, there will be a similar void in the celestial sphere's opposite hemisphere. What could come as a bigger surprise since then though, a few other cold spots have turned up. So if what those guys at Durham University are saying is true, then our universe has collided with not one, but multiple universes. This is the biggest piece of evidence pointing to the existence of multiple alternate realities or parallel universes. Number 7. Deja vu. No, not the Olivia Rodrigo song, though it's a bop, but the actual experience of deja vu. Deja vu is French for already seen. It's the phenomena of feeling as though one has lived through the present situation before. It is an illusion of memory where, despite a strong sense of recollection, the time, place, and context of the previous experience are uncertain or impossible. Approximately 2/3 of surveyed populations report experiencing deja vu at least once in their lifetimes. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I experience deja vu pretty often, and it can sometimes be terrifying. Now, there is no scientific explanation to this, but one theory has led many to believe that deja vu occurs when you do something in sync with your counterparts from other dimensions. For example, a person getting deja vu while getting coffee might be due to their alternate universe self getting coffee at the same time as well. It's both cool and creepy, and to be honest, this makes a lot of sense to me. Number 6. Time travel. Yes, time travel could take us to parallel universes. Time travel is the hypothetical activity of traveling into the past or future, but I truly think it's real. Why? Well, for some proof, there are a lot of celebrities who seem to look exactly like past historical figures. Take Anne Hathaway and her husband, Adam Schulman, they are just the tip of the iceberg. Now, everyone's heard of William Shakespeare, but what you probably don't know about the famous English playwright is that he had a wife named Anne Hathaway. But that's not the scary part. Adam looks exactly like William Shakespeare. Perhaps him and his wife came back for some unfinished business and to provide the world with more art. Everyone on the internet believes this, as people have said they came back for each other, eternal lovers, and history hath a way of repeating itself. Get it? Wink wink nudge. Yeah? No? Okay. And one fan claims Shakespeare made a deal with his wife. I get to be famous in this life and you get to be famous in the next. I truly do believe this. The resemblance is uncanny. There's so many other celebrities as well, so it seems like people wanted to come back to Earth as other people, or they were born as the wrong person in our universe. Number 5. The multiverse. Yes, the multiverse is a real thing, and it wasn't just created for the MCU. The multiverse is a hypothetical set of all universes. Together, these universes are presumed to comprise of everything that exists, the entirety of space, time, matter, energy, information, and the physical laws and constants that describe them. The different universes within the multiverse are called parallel universes. One common assumption is that the multiverse is a patchwork quilt of separate universes, all bound by the same laws of physics. The concept of multiple universes, or a multiverse, has been discussed throughout history, with origins in ancient Greek philosophy. It has evolved over time and has been debated in various fields, including cosmology, physics, and philosophy. Although some scientists have analyzed data in search of evidence for other universes, no statistically significant evidence has ever been found, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. The anthropic principle suggests that the existence of a multitude of universes, each with different physical laws, could explain the fine-tuning of our own universe for conscious life. Number 4. The Mandela Effect. The Mandela Effect is an observed phenomenon in which a large segment of the population misremembers a significant event or shares a memory of an event that did not actually occur. Fiona Broome, a paranormal researcher, coined the term to describe collective false memory when she discovered that a significant number of people at a conference she was attending in 2010 shared her memory that Nelson Mandela died in prison during the 1980s. In fact, the former president of South Africa was released from prison in 1990 and was very much alive at the time of the conference. This has caused an uproar on the internet, with people discussing their experiences. Specific examples include the quote from the Snow White fairy tale, which most people believe say "mirror, mirror on the wall," but is actually "magic mirror on the wall." The Star Wars movies encounter a similar circumstance with the quote, "Luke, I am your father." The real line reads though, "No, I am your father." Furthermore, many people collectively have false memories of how the Bearstein Bears book series title is spelt. Most people remember the name as Bearstein Bears using an E instead of the correct A in the last part of the name. But it was an E, I swear. Similarly, many people believe the name of the popular hot dog brand, Oscar Mayer, is spelled Oscar Mayer using an E in the last name instead of the proper A. It's said for the people who remember things incorrectly were in a different universe and then somehow got transferred to this universe. I don't know, but the Mandela Effect is extremely real and scary. Number 3. Glitches in the Matrix. What is this? Well, some people believe that we live in a simulation that is controlled by other people in a different universe, a parallel universe. These glitches are events that seem comparable to the effects of errors in computer programs or their execution. Some examples of these include objects vanishing and sometimes reappearing, people being seen by different witnesses at different locations at the same time, or not being seen in places where they should be, aka people vanishing, often for considerable amount of times, often with multiple searches, then reappearing and claiming they never left the spot. Changes in everyday familiar objects, and time slips and time freezes, where people interact with different time periods, or where they observe all movement and noises cease over a relatively short or larger area. Some glitches have even been caught on camera. Now, the idea that we are just test subjects and they control everything terrifies me, and if you guys were listening, I would love it if you could add $1 million to my bank account, please. Number 2. Real experiences. There are real stories of people experiencing themselves seemingly switching universes. One online user told this story: "It's been about a week and I am still trying to wrap my head around the fact that I might have died in another timeline and just jumped to this one." Background: I was driving down PCH, a very long highway up the coast of California, at 8:15 p.m. exactly. And I know this because I called my mom to let her know I was stopping to watch the sunset. As I'm watching the sunset, I hear a car's horn blaring. I turn around and see a car coming straight towards my car and myself, and then suddenly I'm sitting on the ground. Very confused, a headache is starting to come on, but I wasn't hit. My car wasn't hit and I'm still breathing. Obviously freaked out, I get back up and check my phone to call my mom because this is just crazy, and I notice it's 8:13 p.m. I checked my phone to see if I actually did call her, but there's no history of it. I shake the nerves off and decide to just get home quickly, thinking maybe that was foreshadowing an event I did not want to relive. Once I'm home, my mom asked me why I called her and just hung up. I asked what time, she said 8:15 p.m. There's still no history of me calling her on my phone. Am I crazy or did I just jump timelines? And guess what, people? There are thousands of stories just like this. It can't be a coincidence, can it? And coming in at number 1, we've created our own universe. Yep. You heard that right. In 2013, researchers at the University of Maryland, College Park, and Towson University had reported that they created multiple universes inside a laboratory-created multiverse. The researchers created a metamaterial like those used in fashion invisibility cloaks that when light passes through it, multiple universes are formed within it. These universes, called Minkowski spacetimes, are similar to our own, except they more neatly tie up Einstein's theory of special relativity by including time as a fourth dimension. While this is rather extraordinary, the experimental setup is actually quite simple, though definitely rather unconventional. The multiverse is created inside a solution of Colbit and kerosene. So yeah, we made our own universe, thus proving there are parallel universes.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have Axislepa. This place is a remote desert area located in northwestern New Mexico that is known for its unique and otherworldly rock formations. These formations, which include hoodoos, spires, and arches, have an eerie and otherworldly quality that has led some to speculate that they could be from a parallel universe. The landscape of this location is so unusual that it almost defies belief. The rocks appear to be twisted and distorted, as if they have been shaped by some unknown force. Some of the formations look like alien beings, while others resemble ancient ruins. Despite its remote location, Axislepa has become a popular destination for hikers, photographers, and adventurers. Many visitors report feeling as if they have stepped into another world when exploring the area, and I don't blame them. The photos truly look like they could be from another planet. Whether or not this place is truly from a parallel universe, there is no denying that its otherworldly beauty and strangeness make it a truly unique and fascinating destination. In our number 9 spot today, we have Raketsbrück. Also known as the Devil's Bridge, this structure is a unique and striking bridge located in Kromlau, Germany. The bridge was built in the 19th century and is famous for its unusual design, which makes it appear as though it could be from a parallel universe. The bridge is built in a circular shape and its arch is perfectly reflected in the water below, creating a complete circle. The effect gives the impression that the bridge is a portal to another world or dimension. The symmetry and precision of the bridge's design have led many to speculate that it was built using some kind of ancient technology or even by supernatural means. The bridge is also an important historical monument representing the engineering achievements of its time. While this place in itself doesn't necessarily look like it's from a parallel universe, the legends still persist today that suggest it might be the perfect place to enter one. In our number 8 spot today, we have Pamukkale. Located in southwestern Turkey, this place is a natural wonder that looks like it could be from a parallel universe. This unique destination is known for its stunning white terraces and thermal pools, which have been formed over thousands of years by the natural mineral deposits in the area. The terraces of Pamukkale resemble a cascading frozen waterfall with sparkling blue pools of water at the top. The contrast between the white terraces and the blue water is truly breathtaking, and the site is unlike anything else in the world. Many visitors describe the experience of walking on the terraces as otherworldly, as the sensation of walking on the soft white surface is unlike anything else that they have ever experienced, and that is exactly why this place has the nickname Cotton Castle. The surreal beauty of this place has led many to speculate that it is a portal to another world or a place that exists outside of our reality. It is believed by many that the waters here are not only strikingly beautiful, but that they also contain healing powers, which makes it a spot that sees travelers from all over the world. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Waitomo Caves. These caves are a unique and stunning attraction located in the North Island of New Zealand. The caves are known for their stunning display of glowworms, lamps which light up the dark and seemingly endless caverns in a way that makes it seem like they could be from a parallel universe. As visitors enter the caves, they are immediately struck by the otherworldly atmosphere. The walls of the caves are adorned with glittering formations, and the silence is broken only by the gentle drip of water. The real magic of the caves, however, comes from the glowworms that inhabit them. These tiny creatures emit a blue-green light that illuminates the caverns in a way that feels almost supernatural. The experience of walking through the Waitomo glowworm caves is truly unique and unforgettable, and many visitors describe feeling as though they have stepped into another world. Whether or not the caves are actually a portal to a parallel universe, there is no denying that they are a stunning example of the natural beauty and wonder of our world. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Zhangyi Danxia landform. Located in China, this place is a stunning and unique geological feature. The landform is made up of a series of multicolored rock formations that have been shaped by millions of years of natural erosion and deposition. The colors of the rock formations are so vivid and intense that it's almost hard to believe that they really are natural. It fully looks like a man-made creation, despite that not being the case at all. The layers of sandstone, siltstone, and mudstone that make up the landform have been exposed to the elements for millions of years, resulting in a surreal and alien-like landscape. Visitors to the area can explore it on foot or by car, taking in the breathtaking views of the colorful mountains and valleys. The unique beauty of the landform has made it a very popular destination for tourists, and of course for photographers from around the world who come to experience this otherworldly landscape for themselves. In our number 5 spot today, we have the White Sands National Park. Another place in New Mexico, because honestly, New Mexico is definitely a home to many unusual things, and the White Sands National Park is no exception, but it is unbelievable. This national park is a stunning destination due to its unique and surreal appearance. The park features a vast expanse of white sand dunes which are composed of gypsum crystals and form an otherworldly landscape that feels almost alien. Visitors to the park are immediately struck by the contrast between the bright white sand and the vivid blue sky, which creates a very surreal and almost dreamlike atmosphere. The dunes themselves are constantly shifting and changing, creating a landscape that seems to be in a constant state of flux. The unique beauty of the White Sands National Park has led many to describe it as a portal to another world, or a place that exists in another universe. Whether or not that is true, there is no denying that this park is stunning and unforgettable, and a destination that should be on every traveler's bucket list. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Danakil Depression. The Danakil Depression is a part of the Afar Triangle in Ethiopia, and it is a geological depression that came about as a result of Africa and Asia moving apart. The divergence of 3 tectonic plates caused rifting and volcanic activity. This place is the hottest place on Earth in terms of average year-round temperatures, and it is also one of the lowest places on Earth at 100 meters below sea level. There are active volcanoes in the area, there are salt springs, sulfur springs, and it only gets about 4 to 8 inches of rain every year. What I'm saying is that this place is stunning and has an incredibly rich geological history, and it also fully looks like it could be from another planet. This otherworldly landscape and quite inhospitable environment is the home to the Afar people. Somehow they have managed to overcome the odds and the obstacles and managed to thrive in this extreme environment, and it is said that this was made possible over the centuries by their ability to adapt to need less food and water than other humans. That's one of the most remarkable things I've ever heard. The Danakil Depression is a popular destination for adventurous travelers who are seeking an experience that is truly out of this world. Visitors can explore the area on foot or by camel, taking in the breathtaking views of the alien-like landscape. Despite the harsh conditions, the area is also home to a number of fascinating animals and plants that have adapted to this unique environment. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Pyramids of Giza. One of the most mysterious places on Earth has to be the Pyramids of Giza. I mean, how? For centuries, people have wondered and tried to find answers as to how they were built at all, let alone with the limited resources and without the use of modern technology. And they've been around for the last 4,000 years, so the durability alone is outstanding. This alone is the source of much mystery, but that's only the outside of them. What lies on the inside might just be even more so. The Pyramids of Giza, especially the Great Pyramid of Giza, were believed to have been built as tombs for rulers and other wealthy people. That totally makes sense, except for the fact that there hasn't been any mummies found inside of them. Instead, there's just a plethora of secret, unexplored rooms, hidden doors and mirrors, you know, just regular ancient Egypt stuff. Many of these secret rooms remain completely unexplored over fear of damage. One more strange thing about these incredible creations is that they were built on the center of the Earth. However they did this, they aligned them perfectly with Orion's belt, with no technology. Just pure brilliance. I'm saying, if anywhere is going to take you to a parallel universe, these pyramids will take you back in time to a completely different world. In our number 2 spot today, we have the Crooked Forest. Forests are already creepy, but this one looks like it's straight out of a Tim Burton film. The Crooked Forest in Poland. There's around 400 odd-shaped pine trees near the town of Grafino. These trees are about 90 years old, and all of the trees, from the base, they immediately bend towards the north and then slowly curve back towards the sky, like other trees. Despite this odd bend, the trees are otherwise healthy. There's been so many theories as to how these trees got their bend, but none of them really stick. Some suggest it was a gravitational anomaly, but that's a little too far-fetched for me. I don't know, this isn't Interstellar. Other theories claim that there were heavy snowfalls that could weigh down the branches, which could check out, but why is it just a select amount? I've lived in Canada my entire life. We have lots of snow, and I've never seen a Sleepy Hollow tree. My favorite theory is that the farmers were trying to make the tree curved on purpose to make stronger wheels because the grain direction would make for naturally curved wheels. But again, nobody knows for sure. What are your thoughts? Do we like the wheel theory? And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have the Catatumbo River. Basically, in western Venezuela, right over the Catatumbo River, there are these insane, very intense lightning storms, and it is a complete atmospheric phenomenon. This lightning occurs during 140 to 160 nights a year, 9 hours per day, and from 16 to 40 times per minute. That is absolutely insane. That is so much lightning. This place will transport you into a parallel universe where it's just lightning all the time. Another thing that's so fascinating about this lightning is that it is colorful and it doesn't produce any thunder. The lightning does change its frequency up from time to time, and at one point it stopped for a few weeks and people thought that maybe it was going to have been exhausted forever, but that thankfully changed when the lightning came back, putting it right back on our list of mysteries that we just can't quite figure out. Many people have studied the lightning, trying to figure out how exactly it has been created and what makes this phenomena what it is, but we just aren't yet quite sure.
Coming up at our number 10 spot, we have cosmic inflation. The first half of this list is going to be some scientific explanations for parallel universes, but don't worry, the science won't get that complicated because then I wouldn't be able to understand it either. First, let's start off by talking about the theory of eternal inflation. This is the idea that ever since the Big Bang, the universe has been rapidly expanding or inflating, and different parts of the universe have been inflating at different rates. This means that there are some sections of the universe that haven't really connected up with the rest, yet creating a sort of bubble universe. While our own universe has inflated enough to breed galaxies and stars and physics and science and whatever else, these other bubble universes are still in the process of creation. They have the potential to be the exact same to ours, or completely different from ours. Or maybe there is a you in one bubble universe that didn't get that bad haircut that you still really regret. One time, my mom cut my hair like Marilyn Monroe. It was brutal. Coming up at our number 9 spot, we have mathematical constants. Similar to that theory is the fact that everything in our known universe can be explained with mathematical equations. Think the Pythagorean theorem. Scientists know that the structure of our universe can be broken down into our mathematical structure. Math, that is, as they call it, without human baggage. They believe that because of this, it is entirely possible to hypothesize that there are other universes out there that are based around different mathematical structures, each universe having their own laws and rules based off of the structure. So infinite mathematical structures means infinite universes, some being just slightly different and some being totally, completely different. Coming up in our number 8 spot, we have backwards universe.
2 years ago, in 2020, NASA discovered what they believe is evidence of a parallel universe, one that is more than a little bit different to ours. Their team, called Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, or ANITA, had been working on an experiment in, of course, Antarctica for a few years. A so-called cosmic ray detection experiment reportedly found particles that seemed to come from another universe, one that was also created when the Big Bang took place. While this evidence alone is pretty astounding, they also discovered that the particles appeared to be moving in reverse, leading them to believe that they had found evidence of a parallel universe where time moves backwards. While parallel universes are often just the work of science fiction and movies, we may be closer to finding the truth of the situation than we originally thought. In our number 7 spot today, we have observable universe. Now let's talk about what scientists believe about the shape of space. In your head, maybe you imagine a big sphere or even some sort of donut, but most likely it's actually flat. And it stretches out infinitely, like forever, never ending. And if it goes on forever, then at some point it has to start repeating, because there is a finite number of ways that particles can be arranged within space and time. So if you looked far enough, you would eventually find another version of you, maybe wearing a different shirt or eating something different for breakfast. Maybe a version of you that didn't watch this far in the video, but hey, we like this version of you better anyways. Unfortunately, it would be pretty hard to actually see this far down the universe because our observable universe only extends 13.7 billion light years, this being the amount of time light has had to travel since the Big Bang. So you can consider the space beyond our observable universe to be its own sort of separate universe, one that we just can't see yet and probably won't for a long time, if ever. In our number 6 spot, we have time travel. Think about time travel for a second. Maybe you thought of Back to the Future. The concept of this movie is that if you go back in time and change one small thing, it can completely alter the future. Some scientists believe that time travel is a definite possibility in our future. So if it is, why haven't we seen anybody come back yet? And have they been screwing around and messing things up? Well, it's theorized that due to the way they would alter the universe, when time travelers go back in time, they actually create their own separate universe where things change. A parallel universe that works to include them in it. That would explain why we have never seen any real evidence of time travelers coming back to our current time, or even any point in the past, because they did not travel back in time in our universe, but instead to their own unique one. Am I melting your brain yet? Let's move on to some simpler stuff. In our number 5 spot, we have different life. For the second half of our list, we are going to be stepping away from science and taking a look at some people's stories of their experiences with glitches in the Matrix that may lend evidence to there being parallel or multiple universes. One day, a man was in his house when he became overcome with the urge to go outside and stand on his lawn. For a moment, he said he had the clearest feeling ever before he felt a slight wobble and everything began feeling slightly distorted. When it was over and he turned to go back inside, he saw his car in the driveway, the same make and model, but a different colored car. But that wasn't the only thing that was different. When he saw his wife, he said that she definitely looked like his wife, but he just had this feeling that she was different. He also started having memories that weren't his, and seeing buildings that, there was no way he could have never noticed in his time living there. Entire departments from his work no longer existing. Is it possible this man jumped to a parallel universe where his life was only slightly different? Maybe. In our number 4 spot, we have wrong memory. This one is a story of a false memory, seeming like an intense version of the Mandela effect. The Mandela effect being when a large group of people all share a false memory of something, which we mentioned in detail on the previous list. This person says that they vividly remember someone they know dying in a car accident, texting and driving, and going off an exit ramp that was still under construction. They remember themselves and their family and friends attending the funeral and everyone in their small town talking talking about it for weeks. Skip to 10 years later. Even the person's fiance knew about it and knew the person's name because of how many times they had told the story. One day, their fiance is looking at their sister's Facebook page and says, "Hey, isn't that the girl who died?" The person came over to look, and it turns out that it was. Apparently also, no one in the town after this incident had any memory of the car accident or the funeral that took place afterwards. So did this person potentially have a memory from a parallel universe where the accident had taken place? It's possible. Coming up in our number 3 spot, we have disembodied voice. People who believe strongly in multiverses and parallel universes usually believe that there are some places and occasions where the gaps between our universes are thinner, and it is easier for things to cross over or for the universes to communicate with each other. This story seems like one of those moments where the barrier was thin. When this person was around the age of 10, they were going to the beach with their aunt and friends when they were divided between 2 different cars. One of the cars didn't know the directions, so they were following behind the other car. When suddenly, it took a sharp turn and they had to follow and do the same, going around a very sharp bend. Suddenly, they all heard a very loud, clear voice in the car saying, "Sharp bend, The driver of the car hit the brakes as they all looked at each other confused, confirming there was no one else in the car that had said that. There wasn't even anyone close by outside the car who could have said it. So maybe it was someone managing to speak through the thin barrier between the universes, or was it a ghost? You decide. In our number 2 spot, we have the motorcycle crash. Sometimes people experience situations where the impossible seems to happen, and maybe it is impossible, but only in our current universe. This person told their story of a death-defying crash. 6 years ago, they were riding through town on a motorcycle going about 45 miles per hour. Suddenly, a woman who hadn't seen them turned left out in front of them, and despite the short amount of time, they remembered thinking about their options, whether they should go over or under the car. They laid the bike down and slid underneath the car diagonally. They slid across the pavement, no helmet, no jacket, just jeans and a hoodie. They slid about 80 feet before they stopped and were then able to stand up. No injuries, except a hole in their sweater, their bike having been completely mangled and torn apart. They knew that there was no way that they should have survived the crash, but somehow they did. A potential glitch in the matrix of the universe? Possibly. In our number 1 spot, we have takeout. Have you ever heard of Schrodinger's cat? Me either. The idea that if you put a cat inside a box with a bottle of poison, the cat is in a state of being both living and dead until you open the box and find out. Well, it turns out that, the food you ordered last night, your takeout, is also in a state of being your order and not your order until you open it up and find out. A man and his friend went to a Chinese restaurant where they ordered a chicken dinner and a shrimp dinner. When they received their boxes and opened them both, they realized that they had received 2 shrimp dinners. No big deal, just a mix-up. So they close the boxes and get ready to go ask for a replacement. But before they do, the friend opens the first box again, and instead of the shrimp dinner they had clearly seen before, it was now a chicken dinner, what they had originally ordered. They knew what they had both clearly seen. Was it possible that for a few seconds they had received their lunch from a parallel universe where they had ordered something else? Maybe.
Starting us off at number 10, we have Glenn Miller. Glenn Miller made his first record in 1935, but it took a few years to establish himself as a great musician. Luckily for Glenn, after some time, his band began doing really well for themselves, and after performing at Glen Island Casino in New York, they began to really rise up the ladder. By 1940, they were dominating the radio with hit songs like In the Mood and Tuxedo Junction, eventually earning him a baffling 15 to 20K a week for his career. But his promising career was all forced to a halt in 1942 when he joined the US Army in World War II. Luckily, while assigned, Glenn was able to lead the Army Air Force Band, inspiring and boosting morale for the troops he fought alongside. That was until he mysteriously vanished one chilly December in 1944. Stationed in England at the time, Glenn had learned that his band was to head over to Paris, and so on December 15th, Glenn followed orders and and boarded a transport plane that was headed for the French capital. But strangely, Glenn never arrived in Paris that day. In fact, Glenn was never seen again. And even more curious was that no trace of his plane crash was ever found, nor have any remains ever been uncovered. Coming in at number 9, Craig Freer. At the time of his disappearance in 2004, Craig was a 17-year-old high school soccer player with lots of friends and a girlfriend he loved. Reportedly, on the day he went missing, he went to visit his girlfriend at her apartment building before he was supposed to be heading to work. But when his mother, Veronica, went into his work to say hello, he was nowhere to be found. In fact, she was told Craig hadn't worked there for a while as he just stopped showing up for his shifts. Now, incredibly confused, his mom tried calling him to get an explanation and was relieved when her son picked up. Craig assured her he would be home to talk with her about it soon, but he never actually made it home. The last confirmed sighting was from 2 teenage boys who spotted him walking along some railroad tracks, and it was reported that he put a finger to his lips as if to make a shh sound before walking into the woods and disappearing forever. Coming in next in our number 8 spot, Dorothy Arnold. Back in 1910, Dorothy Arnold was a 25-year-old socialite and heiress to a perfume empire. So when the news broke that she suddenly disappeared in the middle of the day without a trace, it was an absolute scandal. Apparently at the time, Arnold had had a huge falling out with her father, who was refusing to let her move out of the house. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to him, she was having a secret affair with a man 20 years her senior and kept a secret P.O. box to write to him. But the really weird part about the whole situation is that after her strange disappearance, Dorothy's dad was allegedly so worried about the bad publicity that the scandal might bring upon the family, he was reluctant to bring the case to the police for several months. Instead, he hired his own PI, but sadly was never able to uncover any leads to where his daughter could be hiding. Of course, at the time, there were plenty of rumors circulating about the socialite's whereabouts. Some believed her secret beau had offed her, while others thought she'd taken her own life. Another popular theory was that she had been secretly pregnant and ran away to avoid social embarrassment. But as she was never found alive or dead, the mystery continues to this day. Next up at number 7, Roald Amundsen. The year was 1928 when celebrity explorer Roald Amundsen vanished into thin air and was never to be seen again. Roald had become a world-famous face after his 1911 expedition where he successfully reached the South Pole, and from that point forward he was considered one of the greatest explorers to have ever lived. So imagine everyone's surprise when he went missing on a trip far less dangerous than any of his previous missions. The day was June 18th, 1928, and believe it or not, it was not his mission he disappeared on, but on a rescue trip for an already missing person. Along with a crew of 5, Roald boarded the rescue flight and headed for the crew that had crashed while returning from the North Pole. But neither Roald, his crew, or his aircraft were ever seen again. Due to his popularity, a search for the team began nearly immediately, but after no evidence of a crash and no bodies were found, it was called off. Years later, in 2004 and 2009, the Norwegian Navy attempted to search for wreckage of the mysterious disappearing aircraft, but they too never uncovered a single piece of evidence, and whatever happened to Roald remains a mystery to this day. Coming in at number 6. Hannah Up. What makes the case of Hannah Up particularly mysterious is that she actually disappeared a total of 3 times in roughly 11 years. Now, that alone is strange, but what's even more unique is that she was also diagnosed with dissociative fugue, which is a rare form of amnesia that results in a temporary loss of identity. Kind of makes all the disappearances even more unsettling. The first time it happened was in 2008, and Hannah left for a run along Riverside Drive, but strangely never came home that night. It took nearly 2 weeks of searching, but she was discovered floating in the water face down and rescued. However, she had no recollection of who she was or how she ended up there. Then in 2010, she went missing on her first day of work as a teacher's assistant. They found her purse, wallet, and cell phone were on a nearby footpath, but strangely, after 2 days, she called her mom, confused, asking to come pick her up. Sadly, the third disappearance happened shortly after Hurricane Irma, and as soon as the storm cleared on September 14th, she left her apartment and hasn't been seen since. Coming in at number 5, Sherry Lynn Marlar. On the morning of June 6, 1984, 12-year-old Sherry woke up to see her stepfather heading out to the bank and asked if she could tag along. Her stepfather Raymond was happy to have her join him on the errand. However, rather predictably, when they arrived at the bank and Sherry saw how much paperwork there was to fill out, she got a little bored. So she asked her stepfather if she could go and get a soda, upon which Raymond handed her $1 and told her to go get one from the gas station across the street. When Raymond was done at the bank, he walked back to his truck, assuming Sherry would be waiting for him already. But she wasn't there. So he waited another 20 minutes, but when Sherry still hadn't returned from the gas station, he began to worry. He decided to call Sherry's mom to see if she had somehow seen her, but of course she hadn't. Later that day, Sherry was officially declared missing and a full-scale search was launched. But to this day, no one has ever been able to find out what happened to the girl who crossed the street for a soda. Coming in at number 4, Virginia Dare and the Roanoke Colony. One of the most famous disappearances of all time wasn't just one person, but in fact an entire colony of people. Back in 1587, during the time that Europeans were heading to colonize the New World, a group of 100 settlers found the small island of Roanoke, now modern-day Dare Country in North Carolina, and decided to make it their home. Shortly after the group settled, it was determined that the man John White would be the leader of the group, likely due to the fact that his wife had just given birth to their daughter Virginia Dare, making her the first ever English-born child in the New World. However, after some time in the colony, John headed back to England in search of more supplies for his town. What was meant to be a short visit accidentally turned into a 3-year stay due to the Anglo-Spanish War. However, once he was permitted to return, he made his way back to America, only to find that his entire colony had vanished out of thin air. He looked around for clues for where they could have gone, but there was no sign of battle and no graves reported in the area, seemingly pointing towards the idea that they had moved to a new location. All John found was the word Croatoan carved into a single wooden post, and to this day the disappearance of the Roanoke colony remains a giant mystery. Coming in at number 3, Theodosia Burr, daughter of the 3rd Vice President of the United States, Aaron Burr. If you have heard of a little Broadway musical called Hamilton, or just happen to be a history buff, then you might already be familiar with Miss Theodosia Burr. But one thing they left out of the show was that Theodosia mysteriously vanished in 1813. She was quite the controversial figure in her day, after Hamilton alluded that her father had incestuous relationship with the girl. It's believed that this is what led to the duel where Burr killed Hamilton, and Theodosia subsequently helping her father flee the country. But from there, her life only got worse. It's believed the young woman suffered uterine cancer, and on top of that wrote to her doctor sharing symptoms of hysterical fits, citing seeing figures in the night, witnessing flashes of light, and hearing strange noises. However, once her son passed from malaria, she went into a deep depression and decided to go and visit her father, who she desperately missed. One day she boarded the Patriot, a small boat that was scheduled to take her from Georgetown to New York, where her father had recently returned. But curiously, the boat never arrived in New York. In fact, the boat never arrived anywhere as far as anyone could find. It was as if it vanished into another dimension. To this day, the disappearance of Theodosia Burr remains a huge mystery. Coming in at number 2, Amelia Earhart. Although I would venture to say this woman needs no introduction. Just in case you aren't familiar, in 1932, Amelia Earhart was the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean unaccompanied, and was just overall an incredible woman. On top of her 1932 trip, she was one of the first aviators to promote commercial air travel. She wrote best-selling books about her flying experiences, and was instrumental in the formation of the 99s, which was an organization for female pilots. Essentially, she was a super cool badass pilot in the 30s, which made her disappearance all the more bone-chilling. In 1937, Amelia decided to set out on one of the greatest expeditions to date. She was going to be the first woman to fly all the way around the globe. Determined to make history, along with her navigator Fred Noonan, Amelia left Miami June 1st and headed towards New Guinea. By the next day, they made it, and from there, the plan was to head towards Howland Island, which was a small, uninhabited landmass between Hawaii and Australia. But somewhere en route to their next destination, caught in a bad storm with a low fuel tank, Amelia tragically lost contact with her Coast Guard liaison and literally vanished into thin air. From what anyone has ever been able to find, the plane never landed and neither her nor Fred were ever seen again. And last up in our number 1 spot is Frederick Valentic. In the evening of Saturday, October 21st, 1978, Australian pilot Frederick Valentic informed the Melbourne Air Traffic Control that he was being accompanied by an aircraft about 1,000 feet above him. So imagine Frederick's shock when the air traffic control replied to him saying that there was no known traffic at that level. Now, a little backstory. Frederick was a fairly new pilot who had twice applied to be in the Royal Australian Air Force but was rejected on the basis of inadequate qualifications. However, this story doesn't end with a mysterious crash that one could assume resulted in death. It's much more mysterious than that. After learning that there was not supposed to be anything above him, Frederick went on to describe what he was seeing, saying that it was a large, unknown aircraft that appeared to be illuminated by 4 bright landing lights. He then reported that the aircraft was approaching him from the east and orbiting above him. When asked to identify the aircraft, Frederick was not able to, only further describing its looks, this time mentioning it had a shiny metal surface and a green light on it. For the last time, the air traffic control radioed over asking to please identify the aircraft, to which he famously replied, "It's not an aircraft." His transmission was then interrupted by an unidentified noise described as metallic scraping sounds before all was lost. To this day, neither Frederick or his aircraft have ever been found, and many conspiracy theorists believe he was either abducted by aliens or found some kind of portal to an alternate universe.
Number 10. Giant oarfish. An oarfish really looks like a fish-snake hybrid, as it's a huge, greatly elonged fish. The giant oarfish is the longest bony fish alive, growing up to 36 feet in length. It is found in areas spanning from temperate ocean zones to tropical ones. But unfortunately, we know little about the oarfish because it lives deep underwater and it's rarely seen. However, we know it neither feeds on humans nor fishes, but on small marine creatures like crustaceans and krill. It was officially discovered in 1772, and in September 1996, the United States Navy SEALs found a giant oarfish that washed up on the shore near San Diego, California, and it was 23 feet long. The giant oarfish is by far the largest member of its fish family, at a published total length of 26 feet, with unconfirmed reports of 36 feet and 56 feet specimens and 600 pounds in weight. Now, even though those aren't confirmed, the 20-foot long one still scares me immensely. Number 9. Giant squid. So the kraken is a legendary sea monster of enormous size and is said to appear off the coast of Norway, but what if I told you it was real? A giant squid was found on a shore in Denmark in 1853. The giant squid is as elusive as the legend it inspired, as it lives so deep underwater that we have limited information about it. However, we know it has the largest eyes of all living creatures, grows up to 60 feet, and is frequently hunted by sperm whales for food. The weaker giant squid generally flees when confronted by a whale. However, it sometimes fights back when cornered, and it's not unusual to find sperm whales with scars left from their battles with giant squids. It wasn't until the turn of this century in 2001 that humans saw the giant squid for the first time, and only a few years after that it was finally photographed, making it one of the most elusive on the planet. The giant squid has long been known to exist, but capturing it on film has taken scientists extensive time and voyages to the deepest parts of the ocean where life is difficult to sustain. Number 8. Ribbon worm. Most ribbon worms are very slim, usually only a few millimeters wide, although a few have relatively short but wide bodies. Many have a pattern of yellow, orange, red, and green coloration, and they move slowly using their external cilia to glide on surfaces on a trail of slime, while larger species use muscular waves to crawl. Most of these worms burrow in sediments, lurk in crevices between shells, stones, or the holdfasts of algae or sessile animals. Others build semi-permanent burrows lined with mucus or produce cellophane-like tubes. Mainly in the tropics and subtropics, about 12 species appear in freshwater, and about a dozen species live on the land in cool, damp places, for example under rotting logs. Now these just sound disgusting to me, and I never want to get close to one. Number 7. Hagfish. With a name like that, I think you can expect this thing to be quite ugly. And it is. It actually makes me incredibly uncomfortable. I mean, just look at it. Ew, like how is that even real? Now, hagfish are eel-shaped, slime-producing marine fish, and they are the only known living animals that have a skull but no vertebral column, although hagfish do have rudimentary vertebrae. Hagfish are jawless, and living hagfish remain similar to hagfish from around 30 million years ago. There are estimated to be 76 species of hagfish, and some live as deep as 5,500 feet below the water's surface. They're also known as slime eels because of the goop their bodies produce to ward off predators. These animals can grow to be between 16 and 40 inches long, and some live as deep as 5,600 feet below the water's surface, and as long as they stay away from me though, that's all that matters. Number 6. Barrel eye. The barrel eye, also known as a spookfish, has extremely light-sensitive eyes on top of its fluid-filled head. The barrel eye was first described in 1939, but remained a mystery to scientists until 2009, when they discovered that its large tubular eyes could actually rotate inside its head. This rotational ability allows them to look upward for potential prey or face forward to see what it is eating. Since barrel eyes live at such depths where there is hardly any light, their tubular eyes help them see whatever faint amounts of light drift down to them. They also have 2 spots above their mouths which are called nars, similar to human nostrils. Now I understand why they're called spookfish though, because they do look extremely spooky. Number 5. The slender snipe eel. The slender snipe eel, one of the most compact deep-sea critters, can grow to a minimum length of 4 feet, but weighs no more than 6 or 7 ounces. It has a bird-like beak with curving tips covered with tiny hooked teeth, which they use to sweep through the water to catch shrimp and other crustaceans. It has a lifespan of 10 years and has more vertebrae in its backbone than any other animal, which is around 750. However, its anus has moved forward during its evolution, and it's now located on the throat, so that's nice. Their reproduction is done by spawning, which is when a female lays eggs and the males lay their sperm into the water at the same time. Now, the slender snipe eel only spawns once in their lifetime, as they just die after spawning. Now, it's difficult for scientists to research these organisms because of the extreme environment they inhabit, but hopefully one day we'll get more information on them. Number 4. Goblin shark. The goblin shark is a rare species of deep-sea shark. Sometimes called a living fossil, they are part of a lineage of sharks that are some 125 million years old. The pink-skinned animal has a distinctive profile with an elongated flat snout and highly protrusible jaws containing prominent nail-like teeth. It is usually between 10 and 13 feet long when mature, though it can grow considerably larger because there was once one captured in 2000 that is thought to have been measured 20 feet. With 50 teeth in their mouths, those gruesome creatures command attention, and honestly not really for the right reasons. Interestingly, female goblin sharks are larger in adulthood than the male species. Now, despite their size, some researchers believe that these sharks could also dive the depths up to 4,270 feet for short periods of time. Number 3. Osdax. Osdax is Latin for bone eater, and these animals are also known as zombie worms. The name alludes to how these worms bore into the bones of whale carcasses to reach enclosed lipids on which they rely for substance. With no mouth, anus, or gut, the 4-centimeter long worms survive by secreting an acid that breaks up the whale bone. Now, why do these even exist? I Don't know. They utilize specialized root tissues for bone boring, and it is possible that multiple species of Osdax reside in the same bone. Osdax worms are also known to feed on the collagen itself by making holes in the whale's skeletal structure. These holes can also serve as a form of protection from nearby predators. Scientists from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute using the submarine Roald Amundsen first discovered the species in Monterey Bay, California in February 2002. The worms were found living on the bones of a decaying gray whale in the Monterey Canyon at a depth of 9,491 feet. Number 2. Deep sea dragonfish. Deep sea dragonfish are quite small, usually around 15 centimeters up to 26 centimeters. These fish are apex predators and have enormous jaws filled with fang-like teeth. In addition, they are also able to hinge their upper jaw system, which leads to them opening the jaw to more than 100 degrees, which is scary. This ability allows them to consume extremely large prey, often 50% greater than their standard length. The dragonfish can be found in all oceans, and they also exist at a wide range of depths between the surface and thousands of meters down, between 3,300 and 9,800 feet. It is one of the many species of deep sea fish that can produce their own light through a chemical process known as bioluminescence. They cannot luminesce longer than 30 minutes without adrenaline, but in the presence of adrenaline, it can produce light for many hours. They produce blue-green light, the wavelengths of which can travel the farthest in the ocean. The deep sea dragonfish waves its barbel back and forth and produces flashing lights on and off to attract prey and potential mates. Many of the species they prey upon also produce light themselves, which is why they have evolved to have black stomach walls to keep the light concealed while digesting their meal in order to stay hidden from predators. And coming in at number 1 is immortal jellyfish. The immortal jellyfish is a species of small biological immortal jellyfish found worldwide in tropic waters. Given the nickname immortal jellyfish for its ability to revert back to a polyp stage when it is starving or in danger and basically escaping death, researchers believe this jellyfish may hold the cure to cancer. Under normal conditions, its life cycle is divided into 4 parts. The union of the male and female gametes produces larva or planula. It then attaches to the seabed as a polyp similar to an anemone. The polyp then releases ephora or young jellyfish in the phase prior to sexual maturity. They become jellyfish, reproduce sexually, and start over. But if they are stressed by an environmental threat, the jellyfish revert. After reproducing, they return to the previous phases, becoming polyps on the ocean floor again. As far as scientists know, jellyfish can repeat the process indefinitely. Thus, they are said to be biologically immortal. They can be eaten by a predator or fall into the hands of a swimmer, but they do not die of old age, which is pretty cool, but it's crazy that they can do this.
Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot, we have the Bermuda Triangle. The Bermuda Triangle is the mecca when it comes to mysterious disappearances and rumors and urban legends, so of course it had to make it onto this list. The triangle, which sits in between Florida, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda, earned its deadly reputation starting back in the 1970s. Since then, there has been about 80 aircrafts and 60 boats that have gone missing in the triangle, which only fueled rumors that there was some sort of force or supernatural cause that was making this area one where people would often go missing. There have been intense electrical forces and tunnel-like clouds reported in the triangle, which some believe is the cause for the disappearances, some others believe it's weather patterns, some believe it's the entrance to a parallel universe or a place where aliens like to abduct their victims, and some people like to dismiss the idea that there's any sort of mystery at all. At this point, exactly what is going on with the Bermuda Triangle remains a mystery. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Oregon Vortex. Just off of Interstate 5 in southern Oregon lies what is called the Oregon Vortex. According to local legend, it is said that this area and the strange and mysterious stories surrounding it aren't just modern legends, but that perhaps it stems back further. People have said that the stories of the Oregon Vortex actually stem back to when indigenous Americans referred to it as the Forbidden Land. It is said that during these times, people traveling on horses would often find that their horses would be refusing to go into the area, so clearly something strange was going on in there that was spooking the animals. Scientists have speculated that the land might contain some kind of crossed magnetic lines that produce some sort of force field, but whatever it really is, the place is truly strange. Things appear very differently here. It's sort of like an optical illusion. The area is basically a parallel universe in itself. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Challenger Deep. The Challenger Deep is the deepest known point in our ocean, around 10,900 meters deep. It is located in the Pacific Ocean in the southern part of the Mariana Trench, and because of its location, lack of light, and immense pressure, it hasn't been explored very much. The extreme environment has certainly set up for there to be a whole host of species that we know absolutely nothing about, but it is not an area that can be easily explored by humans. The Challenger Deep has only been visited 4 times, and only for short periods of time, so there is so much more that is waiting to be uncovered at this deep, dark part of our ocean, and I don't know about you, but I feel like there are insane amounts of ocean creatures that could fully be aliens. They are so strange and interesting and unique, so who in the world knows what really lurks down there. In our number 7 spot today, we have Point Nemo. I'm sure there's a few of us out there who dream of time alone, away from other people, and Point Nemo is exactly that. It's like a parallel universe where if you were to visit, you'd feel like you were the only person on Earth. This is the most remote location on Earth. It's officially known as the oceanic hole of inaccessibility because it is the furthest point away from land. This area is surrounded by more than 1,000 miles of ocean in every direction. There are obviously no humans who live even close to Point Nemo, which is why it is called that in the first place, Nemo being Latin for no one. This location is so isolated that the closest people to Nemo aren't even on this Earth. Since the inhabited areas closest to the point is over 1,000 miles away, the humans aboard the ISS are way closer than anyone on land. Truly just wild. Kind of sounds like a dream, kind of sounds like a nightmare. In our number 6 spot today, we have Kawah Ijen. Located in Indonesia, this is one of the most remarkable and interesting places on Earth. Firstly, this active volcano emits hot, flammable sulfurous gases. These gases ignite as they enter the oxygen-rich atmosphere of Earth, and this causes them to burn with a stunning blue flame. Further scientific processes also allows for there to be a flow of molten sulfur that also has that same striking blue flame. At night is really when you get quite a show from this coloring, as it quite literally looks like a flow of blue lava. The other incredible thing about this location is that there is a 1-kilometer wide caldera that is filled with turquoise blue water. The water color, while it looks gorgeous, is a result of extreme acidity as well as a high concentration of dissolved metals. It is an astonishing place to look at and really is quite magnificent. In our number 5 spot today, we have the Devil's Kettle. This area is said to hold one of Minnesota's greatest mysteries. As the Brule River flows through in order to make its way toward Lake Superior, there is a point where it makes an 800-foot drop in 8 miles. Because of this journey, through time, waterfalls have been created as the water erodes the rocky terrain. One waterfall in particular is the one that we want to talk about today. The stream splits into 2 as it falls over the edge. One of the 2 streams flows exactly how you would think it does, while the other is a little more mysterious. On this side, the water rushes into a cavern that seems to go nowhere. The cavern never fills up somehow, but no one can figure out where the water is going. It's a strange phenomena that has resulted in the fall gaining the nickname the Devil's Kettle. It is said that people have tried to place things in the water that might help show them where the water is flowing to, but despite these efforts, the items were just never seen again. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Pyramids of Giza. One of the most mysterious places on Earth has to be the Pyramids of Giza. I mean, how? For centuries, people have wondered and tried to find answers as to how they were built at all, let alone with limited resources and without the use of modern technology. And they've been around for the last 4,000 years, so the durability alone is outstanding. This alone is the source of much mystery, but that's only the outside of them. What lies on the inside might just be even more so. The Pyramids of Giza, especially the Great Pyramid of Giza, were believed to have been built as tombs for rulers and other wealthy people. That totally makes sense, except for the fact that there hasn't been any mummies found inside of them. Instead, there is just a plethora of secret, unexplored rooms, hidden doors and mirrors, you know, just regular ancient Egypt stuff. Many of these secret rooms remain completely unexplored over fear of damage. One more strange thing about these incredible creations, before we move on though, they were built on the center of the Earth. However they did this, they aligned them perfectly with Orion's belt, with no technology, just pure brilliance. I'm just saying, if anywhere is going to take you to a parallel universe, these pyramids will take you back in time to a completely different world. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Crooked Forest. Forests are already creepy. This one looks like it's straight out of a Tim Burton film. The Crooked Forest in Poland. There's around 400 odd-shaped pine trees near the town Grafino. These trees are about 90 years old, and all of them, from the base, they immediately bend towards the north and then slowly curve back towards the sky like the other trees. Despite the odd bend, these trees are otherwise healthy. There's been so many theories, but none of them really stick. Some suggest it was a gravitational anomaly, but that's a little too far-fetched for me. I don't know. This isn't Interstellar, right? Other theories claim that there were heavy snowfalls that would weigh down the branches, which could check out, but why is it just a select amount? I've also lived in Canada my entire life. We have lots of snow, and I've never seen a Sleepy Hollow tree before. My favorite theory is that farmers were trying to make the tree curved on purpose to make stronger wheels, because the grain direction would make for naturally curved wheels. Again though, nobody knows for sure. What are your thoughts? Do we like the wheel theory? I'm just gonna keep a spare tree tire just in case. Keep it stored safely in the trunk. Okay, jokes. I'm funny. In our number 2 spot today, we have the Catatumbo River. Basically, in western Venezuela, right over the Catatumbo River, there are these insane, intense lightning storms, and it's a complete atmospheric phenomenon. This lightning occurs 140 to 160 nights a year, 9 hours per day, and from 16 to 40 times per minute. That is absolutely insane. That is so much lightning. Another thing that's so fascinating about this lightning is that it is colorful, and it doesn't produce any thunder. The lightning does change its frequency up from time to time, and at one point it stopped for a few weeks, and people thought that maybe it was going to have been exhausted forever, but that changed when the lightning came back, putting it right back on our list of mysteries that we just can't quite figure out. Many people have studied the lightning, trying to figure out how exactly it has been created and what makes this phenomena what it is, but we just aren't quite sure yet. And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have the Reverse Waterfall. This mysterious and strange location is another one that comes from India. Here there is a waterfall, but it's got a catch. While we all of course expect to see water cascading down when we think of a waterfall, this strange location instead sees the water moving towards the sky. Some people believe it's because of some anti-gravitational force, others think it's due to the heavy air pressure, and I'm not a scientist, so I'll let you decide. While this is certainly quite a strange place, it also definitely delivers when it comes to beauty. I think even if the water flowed down like a normal waterfall, this area would still see a lot of tourists just because of the immense natural beauty.
Starting us off at number 10, Jose Delgado. Starting us off strong, we're looking at an evil scientist. And I mean, what screams more possibility of a parallel universe than someone who's experimenting with technology ahead of their time? Jose Delgado graduated from the University of Madrid and later in 1946 went on to participate in a fellowship at Yale University. But Delgado was known for having an interest in a very peculiar line of research that left many of his peers uneasy: mind control. During his research, he was known to insert electrode implants into the brains of monkeys, and then using radio frequencies would force the primates to complete complicated movements. But that wasn't enough for the mad scientist. Next, he implanted electrodes into the brain of a bull before getting into a ring with him and making it charge at him, which he was able to successfully stop right before it hit him. From there, he began wiring up humans, but this time his device was not able to control them in the same way it had animals. This time the electrodes were only capable of inciting aggression, not pure mind control. But that wasn't gonna stop him. As he continued to aim for his mind control goals, he once famously said, quote, "We must electronically control the brain. Someday armies and generals will be controlled by electric stimulation of the brain." Now, was he stating a fact that he knew from another universe, or just a scientist gone mad? Let's hope it's the latter. Next up at number 9, Stubbins Firth. A famous physician, this guy may not have been the most evil on the list, but he might just be the most insane. Firth was a trainee doctor during the yellow fever epidemic in 1793 and had some rather interesting ideas about the disease. Now, yellow fever was one of the largest outbreaks in American history, killing roughly 10% of the population, so there was a lot of hands on deck at the time to try and get it under control. In 1801, Firth joined the University of Pennsylvania to begin researching the disease. as at the time no one knew what caused it or really how it transferred. Firth believed the disease was not contagious, and in an effort to prove his theory, he performed experiments on himself. Firth began bringing himself into direct contact with the infected bodily fluids, sometimes smearing vomit from infected patients into cuts on his arms, or even sometimes into his eyeballs. But he didn't stop there. He would smear his body with a myriad of other infected fluids from patients, and when he failed to contract the disease, he saw this as proof that yellow fever was not contagious. But later, when we understood the disease a little bit better, it was figured out that Firth was using samples from late-stage patients that were no longer contaminated with the virus. So he essentially did all that gross and insane stuff for nothing. Coming in at number 8, Robert G. Heath. Similarly to Jose Delgado, this evil scientist was also keen on diving into the world of mind manipulation, but not quite in the same way. Robert Heath was not as interested in domination of the brain so much as how to control the pleasure and pain receptors in the brain. While working at Tulane University, Heath discovered that by wiring up people's brains to electrodes, he was able to administer shocks that could either give them bursts of pleasure or pain depending on where he focused the shock. He went so far as inserting a narrow tube into the brain so that he could administer a chemical called acetylcholine, which resulted in virtual ecstasy and induced some rather pleasing events for those who received the shot. But on the flip, he could also cause complete and utter agony for the patients, making many wish that he would just kill them to end their suffering. Now, the reason that some think this guy could have maybe been from a parallel universe is because quite a few have since suspected Heath was involved with the CIA's illegal MK Ultra project and was researching mind control to help the government. And who better to help than someone from another dimension? Which, I mean, is it a conspiracy? Absolutely, but that doesn't mean it couldn't be possible. Coming in at number 7, Chris Watts. In 2018, Chris Watts came under a notorious spotlight for having convicted familicide, which is the killing of his entire family. Despite what seemed like a happy 6 years prior, one day Shannon, his wife, returned home from a business trip and everything was different. The couple got in a fight where Chris confessed he had a mistress and wanted to leave Shannon and get a divorce. Allegedly, Shannon threatened him, saying that if he did that, he would never see his family again. Chris then strangled his pregnant wife before loading her body along with the rest of their family into the car and driving it out into the woods to kill the last 2 members. Initially, Chris denied knowing the whereabouts of his wife, but just 2 days later confessed to the crimes. It came so out of left field that it almost seemed like a completely different person did the crimes. But no matter what you believe, at least the monster is behind bars for life. Coming in at number 6, Ilya Ivanov. Once again, another mad scientist on this list. Ilya Ivanov was a Soviet biologist who is famous for their studies on artificial insemination. But they also might be one of the most insane people I've ever read about. Now, to give you a bit of context, back in 1929, after years of campaigning, Ivanov was granted permission from the Bolshevik government to go ahead with his research. And what was that, you might be wondering? Well, Ivanov was trying to create a human-ape hybrid. Yes, you heard me right. Initially, it started out by the scientists grafting a human ovary into a chimp and then trying to fertilize the egg artificially, which is not great to begin with, but it got even crazier after that. Later that year, Ivanov traveled to Africa where he forcibly inseminated 3 chimps once again. When none of the animals fell pregnant, Ivanov decided to pivot into something even more drastic, impregnating a human woman with monkey sperm. Now, the wildest part of this is that he did manage to round up 5 volunteers for this experiment, but due to the political climate of the time, Ivanov was arrested and sent away to die, and the experiment was never finished. His research was so out of this world that it's hard not to wonder, was he maybe trying to recreate a species from an alternate universe that he was from? I guess we'll never know. Next up at number 5. Karl Klauberg. There were many evil scientists involved in World War II, and Karl Klauberg was among some of the most disgusting. Back in 1942, Klauberg approached Heinrich Himmler, who was a major figure in the German party at the time, and asked if he could receive a large number of women for research purposes. From there, his proposal was accepted, so off to the cruel camp he went. Once he was there, the so-called research began, and I mean truthfully, it was human torture under the guise of research. I'm sure you're wondering, just what was Klauberg experimenting? Well, he wanted to figure out how to sterilize women in the most cost-efficient way, so he would inject formaldehyde directly into their stomachs without any painkillers. He experimented on thousands of prisoners, but only 700 survived, although all were left sterile. Another thing he would do was inseminate the surviving prisoners and then torment them by lying and saying he injected them with animal sperm to try and create a monster. Now, I don't know what it is about evil scientists and trying to make people birth non-human beings, but I can only assume that in some other version of reality, it has happened. Next up at number 4, Dr. Kurt Blohm. This man was also a member of the evil scientists during World War II, and just like the rest of them, performed indescribable acts on the prisoners. His main choice of torture was purposefully infecting the prisoners with cancer and typhus, but not because they were looking on how to cure it. No, they were literally looking on how to best cause it. The reason being that Blohm was in charge of all biological warfare in the SS, and so his experiments aimed to find the best way to use these diseases against their enemies, debilitating them. Once he even proposed dropping infected mosquitoes into targeted populations to try and infect them with malaria. But what is truly mind-blowing about the whole situation is that despite being arrested and put on the doctor's trial in 1947, and admitting to what he had done, the US intervened in his prosecution for wartime atrocities and got him off the hook. From there, the US Army Chemical Corps hired him to work on biological warfare projects in their country that remain classified to this day. And I mean, that's just a little bit too suspicious, don't you think? Coming in at number 3, Jack Parsons. Okay, so you may have noticed a running theme here. There's a lot of evil scientists on this list, and I am not stopping that trend just yet. Although for Jack Parsons, he started to get a little weird later in life. Once a well-respected scientist and graduate of the California Institute of Technology, in 1939, Parsons did a 180 and converted to Thelema, which is a sort of philosophy religion movement that was developed by the famous occultist Aleister Crowley. So after joining Thelema, Parsons became a different person, frequently spotted dancing nude around a fire as part of a pagan ritual, among other previously uncharacteristic habits. Later, Parsons made friends with the Scientology founder, and the pair would often attempt to raise the mother of the Antichrist and summon spirits. Their methods to make that happen? Well, apparently Parsons would, well, let's just say, enjoy himself while Hubbard took notes, or Parsons and his mistress would go to the bedroom while Hubbard recited scripture. Some think the swift change in Parsons' entire personality could have been some kind of alternate version of him from another reality coming into this dimension, but as he's no longer alive, I guess we will never know for sure. Coming in at number 2, Warren Jeffs. If you are a true crime documentary lover like me, then I am sure this is not the first time you've heard the name Warren Jeffs. Although now he's in prison serving a life sentence for his crimes, those that are still in the FLDS continue to consider Jeffs as the leader and prophet and believe he's been wrongly convicted. For those that haven't seen the doc, let me give you a little bit of context. The FLDS stands for Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's an extreme denomination of the Mormon Church that relies heavily on polygamy. Their belief is that in order to get into the highest rank of heaven, you must have at least 3 wives. But realistically, the more you have, the better in their eyes. Now, there is a lot to unpack with this entire denomination. Honestly, I could probably write a whole video on it alone. But essentially, what you need to know is that under Warren Jeffs' leadership, it came under fire as a hate group and a funnel for underage marriages. Prior to his arrest, it's believed Warren had 87 wives, many of which were not of legal age to marry, and he was not the only one in the FLDS to be in a similar situation. Using the excuse that God would come to him and tell him who was the next girl to be married off, he routinely placed very young girls with very old men and convinced his community that it was what God wanted. Warren Jeffs is truly a sick and evil man, and I am so glad they've got him locked up for life. And last up in our number 1 spot, Joseph Fritzl. Now, this might be one of the most heartbreaking cases I've ever read about. Born in 1935 in Austria, at 21, Joseph Fritzl married a girl named Rosemary, and the pair had 7 kids together. Now, he was a very man to everyone in his family, but especially Elizabeth. But the peak of his cruelty began when Elizabeth was 18. He lured her into the basement where he trapped her for the next 24 years of her life. In those 24 years, he assaulted her constantly, and during her imprisonment, she gave birth to 7 people. Of course, over the years, many were concerned about Elizabeth's disappearance, but Fritzl would lie and say that she'd ran off to join a cult and that he had no clue where she was. One day, after one of Elizabeth's offspring was ill, she managed to convince him to let them go to the hospital, and once they arrived, police were there on site to detain them. After making sure she would never be forced to see her father again, Elizabeth told authorities everything that her father ever did to her and her kin, and Fritzl was sentenced to life for his crimes. Some believe his acts were so cruel that he must have been from some parallel universe where Elizabeth wasn't his daughter, as it was so hard to believe that someone could do that to their own family.
In our number 10 spot, we have the Sargasso Sea. Located in the northern Atlantic subtropical gyre, the Sargasso Sea was named for its Sargassum seaweed. The area has become known for its ghost stories and ghost ships, one of which is the famous Mary Celeste. This ship went missing in the Sargasso Sea, and by the time it was discovered in 1872, not a single body was found on it. The ship's food and cargo was, however, still there. So it probably went through some kind of portal, and the people decided to stay in this new universe and then decided to send the ship back. Makes logical sense to me. In our number 9 spot, we have Lake Superior. Lake Superior is a lake that borders Canada and America, and it is known to have had some mysterious incidences over the years. The lake apparently is known for its stormy winds, and it has claimed quite a few boats over the years. But there have also been whole ships that have disappeared without a trace. Because of this, scuba divers around the world dive in its waters to analyze the sunken ships as well as look for any other signs of magical activity. Whole ships don't just disappear, folks, unless maybe they get eaten by some kind of Loch Ness lake monster. I'd put my money on that or a gateway to another universe. In our number 8 spot, we have the Yosemite National Park. The Yosemite National Park is located in California's Sierra Nevada mountains. There have been many unusual events at this park over the years, and some speculate some kind of entrance to the Upside Down world, aka a parallel universe. The reason being because there have been many disappearances. 45 people haven't been found till this day. There have also been stories of children disappearing at one area of the park and found in another area without their clothes. Holy, that's terrifying. Some think it's more likely supernatural beings like ghosts that are playing tricks, but some think there's some kind of Narnia-like portal taking everyone to a new land. I think that I really want to go to this park and investigate it myself. In our number 7 spot, we have the Nevada Triangle. Located in, you guessed it, the state of Nevada, there is a triangle of suspicious activity from Las Vegas to Reno, Reno to Fresno, and Fresno to Las Vegas. This triangle is known for a lot of mysterious situations occurring, probably because the very unknown, questionable Area 51 is within the triangle. UFO sightings have been reported, and many disappearances have occurred here. You know, we always just think that aliens are in Area 51, but what about a portal to another world? Or perhaps they have discovered some kind of time traveler device that they keep in there. Either way, I'm sure we'll never know. In our number 6 spot, we have Pyramid Lake. Clearly, there is a theme here with the triangles. Near Reno, in the Paiute Reservation in Nevada, there is a lake that is known as Pyramid Lake that was apparently named after a pyramid-shaped rock formation in it. This area has a very known story about 2 men that were at this lake and then mysteriously disappeared without a trace. Could this be perhaps that around the pyramid-shaped rocks is a gateway to another place? Some locals speculate that the 2 men could have also been dragged under the water by spirits called water babies, as there are old native stories that speak about a legend about bad spirits in these waters. I kinda hope they found a portal, because a water baby drowning them just sounds terrifying. In our number 5 spot, we have the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Located between the states of Tennessee and North Carolina, the mountains in the park are quite glorious and attract a lot of tourism. They unfortunately attract disappearances as well. Not too many, however. 3 very unusual disappearances have occurred that are still unresolved today. One is famously known as a boy named Dennis who mysteriously went missing in 1969, another being an older woman in 1981. Missing people are not uncommon in national parks, but it is usually uncommon that they are not found. There is usually some kind of trace of them. So perhaps there is a mountain portal that the missing people discovered. I feel like that's a good theory. In our number 4 spot, we have Pecos. Referring to Pecos, New Mexico, located close to Santa Fe and near the Pecos River, this place is known for being a popular place to fish and hunt. This is another area that has a triangle phenomenon called the Pecos Triangle. Clearly, it's the triangle that creates the portal. Quick, let's all go and draw a triangle and open a portal to a new world. And that would be pretty cool if we could draw a triangle and then jump into it and go into a new world. My brain. In this triangle, there have been many reports of missing people. There are also reports of the roads having supernatural beings, and people have even claimed to have seen UFOs. UFOs from another dimension. Probably. In our number 3 spot, we have the Anjikuni Lake. This lake is located in the far northern region of Nunavut in Canada. This place had once been the home to a small town of Inuit people. But apparently, as the story goes, in the 1930s, a fur trapper would every so often go to the village to sell his fur. But on one of the last times he went there, he found the place to be completely deserted. There were still pots of food and all of their resources, but there were no people or even bodies. The animals in the town had seemingly starved. Wild. Who knows, maybe there is a black hole that formed in this town and sucked all the people up. But maybe not, because I guess the animals would have been missing too. There might be some sign of a disaster, but there wasn't. Clearly a portal to another universe was found. Only explanation. In our number 2 spot, we have the Bermuda Triangle. Most likely, if you're interested in this video and this kind of content, I'll bet that you definitely have heard of the Bermuda Triangle and the conspiracies around it. This is a place located in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Florida. There are so many unexplained circumstances revolving around the triangle, including many people that have gone missing. A naval ship called the USS Cyclops completely disappeared in 1918, and many planes have mysteriously fallen off the face of the earth. This triangle is without a doubt a portal to another dimension, let's be real. Fun fact, when I was young, I used to tell everyone that when I turn 80, I am going to go to the Bermuda Triangle and check it out, and if I die, then well, I've lived a long life. But now that I'm older, I've moved that goalpost to 100, so Yeah, 80 is still young, honey. In our number 1 spot, we have the Alaska-Bermuda Triangle. In the southern part of Alaska, there is a stretch of land with icy mountains and tundras. This land hasn't properly been explored due to severe weather conditions, so many don't go anywhere near it for that reason. But also, for another reason. As you get close to these mountains, people seemingly disappear. So many people disappear, actually, and the locals have a theory about this. They think it could be due to some kind of Bermuda Triangle parallel universe theory, or the Kushtaka. The Kushtaka is a sort of Alaskan Bigfoot that is believed to lure victims to a nearby river, where it then tears them to shreds and turns them into another Kushtaka. Well, all I can say is, once again, I'd much rather death by jumping into another universe than death by being shredded. Well, I'm convinced there's a parallel universe. Are you? Just look up the Berenstein Bears conspiracy theory, and that's all you need to be convinced. It's Berenstein Bears, not Berenstain Bears. In our number 10 spot, we have coconut tree grub. Alright, well, this food looks just like maggots. Just why, humans? What would possess someone to eat something that looks like this? Like, really, the first person that stumbled across this was like, yes, this looks delightful. I shall cook it under a hot fire and it will be delightful. No, you can't convince me that humans reacted to this that way. This was clearly discovered by some kind of reptilian person and pushed onto the masses. Or it was brought here from another dimension. Coconut tree grub can be found in the Peru jungle in, you guessed it, coconut trees. Apparently they are protein rich and taste scrumptious when cooked. Nope. I refuse to believe this. In our number 9 spot, we have giant sea squirt. Giant sea squirt can be found in Santiago, Chile, off the coast. And apparently these creatures, known as pura, are as big as basketballs. Look, your girl's not really into seafood, but really, what in the name of my great Aunt Sally is this? Honestly though, anything with a spongy-like texture gives me the heebie-jeebies, so again, I'm a little bit biased. Its little bubble-like corpuscles make me so uncomfortable to look at it. Please leave a comment below and tell me why you think this looks edible, if you do. Vice.com referred to it as looking like an alien living under a rock, and I would have to agree. In our number 8 spot, we have pololo. Not sure I understand why anyone would eat a worm-like creature in the first place, but alas, humans still do, and I shall continue to be dumbfounded. Pololo are little worm-like creatures with lots of legs that honestly give them an alien-like look, of course from the sea. They're basically worms from another dimension. They can be blue or brown in color. They come out of the coral reefs every few years or so when the conditions are right, and when they do, they are apparently treated like a delicacy to the people along the coast of Samoa, where they are usually found. People apparently eat them raw, saying that they taste like liver fermented in salt water. Come again? How does that sound appetizing to anyone? I don't understand. People also eat them sauteed or on bread. Yeah, I'll pass, thanks. In our number 7 spot, we have horse rib and rectum sausage. Yes, you heard that right. In Kazakhstan, the people eat horses, and I must conclude that it's possible that they are not from our dimension. I mean, certainly not our continent, because I don't know any people that eat horses here. Although I don't leave my home very often, so I may be very ignorant. Apparently the people of Kazakhstan don't like to waste any part of the animal, so they eat everything from the mane to the rectum. One of their known dishes, a sausage made from whole pieces of rib meat from the horse, seasoned with salt and pepper, and then stuffed with casings from the horse's butt, and it's dried to cure. Apparently it is a very normal dish in Central Asia. One that I will probably never try. In our number 6 spot, we have the sea cucumber. The sea cucumber looks like it would be food for another species, let alone for humans in this dimension. I could also imagine another parallel universe where the animals and plants on land are just too dangerous to eat because we've infected them with all of our nuclear testing, that we have to resort to eating that which is deep in the ocean, and so therefore, you know, then we have to resort to eating sea cucumbers instead of regular cucumbers. Hopefully that doesn't happen because something tells me it probs doesn't taste the same. The sea cucumber is found off the waters of Sitka, Alaska. Apparently you just throw it on a wok and pour some soy sauce on it and we're good to go, honey. There's so many different pictures of it that it looks like it can appear in many different ways, but most frequently, to put it bluntly, it kind of just looks like a giant turd. Do you agree? Let me know in the comment section below. In our number 5 spot we have tarantulas. The people of Cambodia eat tarantulas. They must not watch any Hollywood movies, and fair enough, they probably have their own entertainment with their own brand of propaganda, but holy moly is this terrifying. They eat giant tarantulas, y'all. Apparently when cooked properly, they can be as good as lobster, as hard as that is to imagine. After they are defanged, washed, and then scorched to remove the hair, and then deep fried. They're apparently good, but still, isn't it bothersome to look at their legs and shape? I'm probably too influenced by American pop culture. I'm not even sure I'm convinced anyone from a parallel universe would eat these creatures though. I can get on board with people from another planet, but anyways. In our number 4 spot we have giraffe weevils. Don't let the name confuse you, this isn't a dish made from an actual giraffe. Giraffe weevils are bugs that have extremely long necks that make them the giraffes of the bug world. They are basically beetles and people have said that they look like something out of a Dr. Seuss novel. They are from Madagascar and people like to saute them in salt water and butter. Apparently they have a taste similar to shrimp. Anyways, I think they jumped into this dimension from another one because the idea of a long neck bug just feels surreal to me. So we're gonna go with that. In our number 3 spot we have Insectae. Look, this is a plant, and even though it's not that bizarre to eat plants, I'm going to include this one because it's not widely known and perhaps bizarre to someone from North America or Europe that has never heard of it. This is a plant that is known to be a part of the false banana family, which basically means it's close to a banana, but it isn't. It's only eaten in one area of Ethiopia, and it is considered a superfood there, which is quite interesting. And the people make it into a bread and they love it. I'm a big banana fan, so I hope I get to try this one day. In our number 2 spot we have camel kebabs. I don't know why I am fascinated by the fact that I really didn't know that this was a thing. I mean, it makes sense that people eat this as it's as common in some areas as cows are in other areas. But yeah, it is regularly eaten in the Middle East and in North Africa. People find camel kebabs to be delicious. Apparently the kebabs consist of the organs such as the liver and testicles, which are sauteed, and the fat goes into the meat grinder before everything is made into a kebab. This really feels like an idea from an alien or someone from another dimension, but it's probably because living in North America is like living in another dimension when you go to the Middle East. It's just such a different world. So much to learn, so little time. In our number 1 spot we have octopus ink sacs. Yes, you heard that correctly. I know what you're probably thinking. Don't octopuses use their ink sacs to ward off predators? Would it not therefore be poisonous? It surprised me to hear that apparently not. Apparently you have to first poach the ink sac and then fry it. Typically it was eaten by sponge divers who were away at sea for months that they had to make do with whatever food they caught. It is a very known dish in the island of Kalymnos. However, it is hard to find because it's from another dimension. Dun dun dun. Shipping through the dimensions is just quite difficult. But honestly, unless it would somehow make me lucky, I would never eat an octopus ink sac ever. Okay, I probably could be persuaded if I was offered a home in Monaco or, given $1 million or something.